Hey everybody, this is Brian.
And this is Josh.
Welcome to the podcast for Curiosity Continuum.
Curiosity Continuum is an industry-innovating, non-traditional company passionate about growing wisdom in the next generation.
We are the essential bridge between the analog and digital worlds by building collaborative communities that unleash the power of adaptive expertise and innovation needed to thrive in the 21st century.
We combine and mix essential elements needed to empower people to succeed in new ways, not possible outside of a creative, thoughtful, diverse community of fellow curious people.
Follow us on your favorite podcast app to receive notifications of new content. If you like what you hear and want to dive deeper, visit us at curiositycontinuum.com. Thanks for tuning in. Let's start the conversation. Becoming old, Josh. You're getting tired as we record.
I am an hour later, so.
Fair point.
Yeah.
Josh and I were just talking about how we can communicate with people or reach out to folks. And it's really, is diaspora too strong of a word to talk about all the different ways you could get contacted these days on social media and email and phone and text and everything else? It's exhausting.
It's more than exhausting. It's not the way humans are made. So you're exhausted for a very good reason, because it's not a natural way that that people have been accustomed to communicating. I think it's worth it to talk about it, at least.
You learn a lot of different things about people, how engaged you are in your life. That'll be something that the sociologists and psychologists will tell us about 15 years from now. They're already seeing some of the effects of it just because social media is that old, where you have enough data to be able to tell you the effects on your mind, on your being.
Yeah, I mean, Brian and I are so old, they used to call social media new media. Now they just call it media. But you're right. That dopamine hit you get, that instant gratification you get from checking your phone. Now, is that due to social media or is that due to checking the phone? Which we're finding more and more, it is probably the social media, like you need that validation. And people are addicted to that. They become addicted to it.
It's really a stream of endless novelty that could come to you.
Yeah.
Right?
And
specifically tuned for you.
Yeah. And I mean, we have also been talking about on the back end, and we've been talking a little bit, not too much ever really. I don't think we ever really recorded about it. We did talk about the not socialness of social media and all that. But I think the thing we're talking about more and more is how do we limit the exposure? Because we know that it is a fact of life. But how do we limit it so that it doesn't control our lives or push us to one location or the other, right, Brian?
Yeah, I'm going to rename, I'm thinking about the name of this episode right now. It'll probably be Rules of Engagement Rethought or something like that. The reason being is because for myself, years ago, I parked a lot of social media because I wanted control of my name. I had nothing that would make me famous at the moment, where people just crave the name and like do all the things. At that particular time in history, that was when people would buy the like ComcastSucks.com or something.
Oh, yeah. I mean, people bought
campaign.
legitimate domains too, like McDonald's.com and BurgerKing.com. But I know what you're talking about. So like right after that period, like the early, I would say mid-aughts, we would call it. So like 2005 to 2011, 2012, people were just buying stuff to park it, to keep it away from others. And some of that stuff was like the mid-tier, B-tier stuff. So like ComcastSucks.com or Best Buy Sucks was a great website back in the day, actually, .com. But those kind of things. So they were like parking it. Some were using them, some weren't. They were just like claiming the domains.
Now, for myself, depending on how I meet people will depend on how I interact with them. Right? So you can reach me on email, several different emails, text message, WhatsApp, Facebook,
right,
Instagram. I mean,
they Google your name, you'll find you.
You'll find me. Now, if I'm honest, part of it is FOMO, that I'll miss something that should come to me. Now, I've talked about this previously. the content creators and the creative people of the world oftentimes are not paying attention to the other things that are being created. One of the best examples of this was, I believe, I don't know if it was Viggo Mortensen from years ago, where he said he really doesn't watch TV. And like, well, how do you know how to do all these things and stuff? He's like, he's busy making the stuff. And if you hear a lot of very successful actors, creatives, they're not consuming.
No. So like
they're
they're
in the merchant class of making.
and I'll have a really good friend of mine. It's one of the biggest podcasts in the world, and he does not listen to other podcasts in his topic of sphere. He doesn't listen to them because he first of all, his answer to that is he doesn't want to be tainted, even subconsciously, by what other people say. Number two, he's really not interested in what other people say. Now, if you give him something like in sports or something, oh yeah, he's going to listen to that. But he doesn't have a podcast about sports, and so he doesn't feel like, he literally will not do that. And I find that very interesting, but I also find it very like, yes, because Brian and I don't listen to podcasts like ours, really. Like I don't. I listen to more political podcasts and then some other stuff, but I don't listen to podcasts that do what we do, like a critical thinking type stuff like that, because I feel like we're creating what we want to listen to anyway.
Very true. When I've thought about that fact again, what do you want to create? What do you want to build? The creative exercise many times is separate from something that would be considered almost like a, quote, hard business activity. The things that make the world sparkly and new and innovate aren't based on sound business practices.
No.
Right? It's the iterations of many that finally hit a critical mass that tips it over into something brand new. That creates a new standard by then which everybody is trying to hit. You mentioned sports and athletics. How many times have we heard, like, there's no way that a human being could break the 5-minute mile, or that seems like that's a very old thing now. Can you break a 5-minute mile?
Right. Now you have high schoolers breaking 5-minute miles. Yeah.
Because somebody did it. They said there is a way to do this. It is possible. They figured out a way to do it. Bruce Lee is one of my favorite personalities in terms of not only like what he accomplished in cinema, but his physical fitness level. I mean, great googly moogly. If I could look like half of him, I would have accomplished something great in my life. He didn't take the wisdom of the day and say, well, I'm just going to do that to the best of his ability. He did things 50, 60 years ago that people are just figuring out now why it works.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. He did a lot of trial and error and probably just figured it out and said, this is what I am going to do because it works.
Yeah, and I don't think like someone like him is very in tune or very cares about why it works. Just does it work? And so it's a trial and error process. They're like, how do I get from A to B? And they don't care how they do it. They just do it. It's almost like the remembering who you are. Like I think human beings forget who we are a lot of times. Like we are creatures that success easy. Like when we have success, we don't really remember that. We relish in the success, but we learn from the failure. And so we are always striving for the success. But in reality, I think that the failure is more important. And we've talked about this before, but the idea of that, the kind of like the feeling you get that when you do that right is almost priceless, right? Like if you are trying for something so long and then you get it and you have that success, that's like sweeter than if you just do it on the first time and get it, right? Like if I just try to make a 3-point in basketball and I just had it the first time, like, oh, I'm the greatest of all time, just walk away. But if I missed 500 of those and then hit it, I'd be like, wow, that's actually special. And I think that's kind of the feeling that we're trying to hit.
Michael Jordan had his interview clip I've seen several times over the years where he said, I missed the most baskets, I've missed the most points, I've been trusted with the final shots of the game, and I've blew it this many times. Michael Jordan is still considered one of the best that ever played the game.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't because he batted 1,000. Yes, I know I'm mixing metaphors. He did play baseball for a short bit.
Yeah, and that's where he hurt himself.
Right.
Right.
Now, consider this with me, folks. Nowadays, it's very easy to scroll. Let's wrap it back to social media, or how the internet or news works today. You see a lot of people going, and another success, and another success, and another success, over the course of 25 people that you just did, because everybody's posting their victory lap. And you got some people going like, the struggle's real, folks. This is what I did. And it gets a lot of attention because it's actually connecting with people on the level where they know this does not work the way I think it worked. This is how this person persevered. And you can't have victories without the working out of it, right? It is demoralizing when you think that everybody's winning. Well, of course, the last 25 posts that you saw, everybody's winning.
Yeah.
Until you see them in real life, and their life is a disaster because they're going through a divorce.
They're destitute.
They lost their job. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're going through a bankruptcy or something. Like, there's real analog life happening that has no bearing on what is shown. And you need to be able to remind yourself, not everything is as it appears. When your mind is always tuned into what everybody else is doing, though, it's very easy, raising my hand here, to play the comparison game, to go, I am not doing as well as them. But you've filled in all these assumptions about how things are working.
Yeah, and it's
They're probably not right.
It's from your frame of reference. So I think that's what we need to keep totally aware of. It's only from what you see as a frame of reference. So like you are only having the frame of reference like somebody like, not like me, but somebody you don't see every day on social media. You might only have that frame of reference, and they control that. Now, when you meet them and you see like, wow, their life's a dumpster fire, not that it gives you like a giddy feeling, because it doesn't. Like, it's a sad feeling, but you're like, what is real? And what is reality? And the reality is human beings are not digital creatures. We're not. We have shoehorned ourselves into the digital world, but we still very much are analog creatures, and the things that happen in the real world affect us much more readily and quickly than things that happen in the digital world. Now, maybe at some point in the future, that's going to change. But I actually hope it doesn't, because everything about us is wired for like a physical to physical contact, speaking to someone in the real world. You see their body language. You like pick up on things that you just don't pick up digitally. And I think that's the important thing to remember. Like Brian said, it's not about always what you see on the outside. It's what you can perceive. And so I don't really know how to close that, but I'm just saying, I'm just spitballing a little bit.
I would say sometimes you can see where you are based on a standard. The trick here is to make sure that the standard that you are supposedly holding yourself to is not some augmented, not real standard that is completely unachievable. Because what that does is causes you to be demoralized, and you're not contributing what you can contribute to your life. We grew up in Minnesota, as we've talked about. How many people, Josh, did you know that told stories about the fish that got away?
Got bigger every time?
And bigger, and they finally had a picture of a fish. And what you learn through perspective is that they're holding the fish exactly 2 inches from the camera, and they're, as long as their arm's length away, and the fish looks absolutely enormous, but it's perspective. It is completely a trick to make you think that it's It's more fabulous than what it really is. And while those gauges and checkpoints are important, don't diminish what you're doing right now in the everyday small sense to build to the bigger thing, because failure could be final, or you could choose to continue to go through and build again and again and again, and you're not going to receive the accolades for that every single step. It's the discipline of doing it, and it's a believing in what you're doing, so you keep going.
I think that's the real lesson, right? Persevere and keep going, no matter what. Because even if you are not really where you want to be, or you're not really thinking like doing this, you are affecting other people. And you could be that linchpin in their story. We're like, wow, I saw this person that really was, really working hard at it and just doing the thing. And that gave me the, confidence to keep doing. I think about that often, like how I affect other people. And I know it's weird, but I do think about that. Like, dude, what did they see? And sometimes I am the villain in their stories, and I get that because I am sometimes, I think about that a lot. But I like I said, I don't have much to add here. But I like where we went with this.
Unplug to plug into your own success, folks. Just put a comma here, Josh.
We can do that.
Till next time, this is Brian.
And this is Josh.
Curiosity Continuum.